Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to take you through the operations of the systems at First Baptist Smackover. And we're going to start with the mixing console. If you'll notice here, we've got several things going on here in the booth, but primarily we have here on the left, we have the Easyworship or presentation software for our projectors and the display, rear-facing display. And we have the live streaming software for streaming to YouTube. We have all of that on this one computer with dual monitors. And if we bring up, both of those shortcuts are on the desktop. If we bring up Easyworship and OBS, those should associate with the left and the right monitors, but if not, you can make some adjustments. But we'll talk about those a little bit later on. The next thing we have here is just an alternate PC computer here. It is connected to the video system and accessible via a switcher, this switcher right here in the rack. But really, I think it's designed, it's kind of unique. I don't know that I've encountered it before, but it's designed to have something queued up ready to show and do something on the fly, switch over to it. Next to that is our console, which is where we're going to start. Just to the right of that is the lighting controller, and then we've got our rack for outboard equipment. But let's talk about the mixing console. On the back of the mixing console, you have inputs and outputs. So our local inputs here are for things in the booth. Those are wireless microphones, the audio from the computer, CD player, anything like that that's in the booth. The shortest cable run is to the console. So those are our local inputs. Over here are local outputs, and you notice that there's nothing connected. There is one cable there, but it's not going anywhere. And so there's nothing connected to the local outputs on the console. Instead, this is inside the choir chamber on the left, not choir chamber, the organ chamber on the left side if you're facing the stage or if you're in the booth. In this are several things, but primarily what we're going to talk about is here at the top is an expansion module for that console. So in other words, it's taking 16 more inputs and 8 additional outputs and locating them remotely and connecting them back to the console via just an Ethernet cable. And if we go back, I'll show you this blue cable right here is what's connecting that expansion unit back to the console. All right, so on the left side are remote inputs. Just like we were talking about, the closest way to connect the wireless microphone receivers and the computers and all of that, the audio for that, is directly to the console. Well, the most efficient way and the closest way to get inputs from the stage into the console is through this expansion module. So these white cables here are the inputs that are coming from the stage. And so when you plug something into the stage, it's connected via one of these cables to this module, which is connected via Ethernet cable back to the console. So our inputs are things like the XLR jacks inside the organ and the piano chambers, the XLR jacks on the modesty wall in front of the choir, the XLR jacks inside the stage box in front of the pulpit. Those are what is connected to that the inputs of that expansion module. Connected to those connections are the piano mic, the choir mics, the pulpit mic, instruments, anything that's a wired microphone, anything that's connected into the stage via connection on the stage goes into that module and then is connected back to the console via that Ethernet cable. So on the other side, on the right side of that unit, are the 8 remote outputs, though those are expansion outputs for the console. Now you notice there wasn't anything plugged into the console because there's nothing close to the console that we want to go out to. However, we need to go out of the expansion module into these 4 amplifiers that are there in that same rack. The top 2 amplifiers here are for the left and right house. They're JBL VRX, the white hangs of line arrays. That's what that top amplifier, the bottom amplifier, is going to the subwoofers. The subwoofers are there in those same organ chambers, big white 18-inch JBL subs. And then the bottom two are powering various monitors, like the front monitors, the choir monitors, the piano organ hotspot monitors. But anyway, so you see there's our house speakers, there's our subwoofers. All of those speakers are being powered by those amplifiers, which are receiving their signal from the outputs on that remote expansion module. Okay? So let's talk about the console itself. On the console itself, the way that we access those different, the expansion module versus the local inputs, right? The way that we control those individually are these buttons right here. These are called fader banks. Some people call them layers, but basically it allows us to address 48 channels of audio with only 24 sliders. So the way that we do that is we actually have one set of faders on top of another set of faders, and we can go between them as we want. When I press either one of these, the motorized faders will adjust by memory to where the last position of the faders were the last time we were on that layer. So it remembers your adjustment when you go between layers. So when we press that first button that's there in yellow, those are for the remote inputs or the stage input. So we're talking about when we press that button around here on this scribble, this is called a scribble strip, you'll see labels like piano, choir, you'll see pulpit, you'll see all of our local inputs here on this scribble strip for making those adjustments. Now, if we press the one next to it, the fader bank 2, then we're accessing all of the local inputs. It's all of the inputs in the booth. And you'll see on the scribble strip, you'll see across here wireless 1, wireless 2, wireless 3, all the way to wireless 6. And then the last two are lapel 1, lapel 2, which are wireless. And then over here, we'll see our media inputs, PC, CD, all of those across here for adjusting volume there. Anything local in the booth is accessible via the second fader bank. Over here on the right side are our outputs. Now, a digital console is essentially like several consoles in one. Every button that you see here could be its own console. And what I mean by that is this. When I select, say, the front monitor button, when I select that button, the entire mixer is now dedicated to adjusting sound just for the front monitors. In other words, if I press the front monitor button and I turn up the pulpit mic, I'm only going to turn it up in the front monitors. It's not going to change in the house. It's not going to change in any other monitors. It's only going to change in the front monitors. So I can press the front monitor button and I can mix with the entire mixer just for those speakers. And adversely, I can do the same thing with the choir monitors and with the piano organ monitors, and even with the assistive listening devices. I can make those adjustments because the entire mixer is dedicated toward whatever is selected. Now, if nothing's lit up over there, nothing is glowing blue over there, then everything I'm doing is for the house mix. However, if one of those is lit up blue and I've selected it, then the entire mixer is now dedicated to that output there on the expansion module that goes to that channel of the amplifier that goes to those speakers. That's the only thing that I'm adjusting. Now, to go back to the house mix, all I have to do is press it again to turn it off, and it goes back to the house mix. So this is the Yamaha TF5. This is your console. We're going to go through in detail the general operation instructions for this console. You'll notice the first thing that we want to talk about here are basically channel strips. So starting at the select button, you see they're numbered 1, 2, 3. Well, starting up here, there's a select button, a Q button, on button, then the scribble strip telling you what it's for, and then the volume slider. That's called a channel strip. So we're going to talk about all the different components of that. So we've got, first of all, up here we've got the on button. This is probably the most critical thing on the channel strip, because if that button is not lit up orange, yellow, and it's not on and it's dark, that channel is not on. And so you can adjust all you want, but until you hit that button, that channel is not active and you will not hear anything. It basically is muted until it's turned on. So make sure that if you want to, it's useful to be able to turn a channel off if you need to without adjusting the volume. Instead of turning it down and then turning it back up to where you think it was, you can just turn it off when it's not needed. Just got to remember to turn it back on when it is needed. And then just above that is called the Q button. This is an interesting button. Some mixers call this the solo button, which I think makes more sense. But this mixer is made by Japanese, and so it's got different names for stuff. So the Q button, basically what it does is, if I have headphones connected, we're going to look at the headphone section in a minute, but if I plug in headphones and I hit a Q button, all these are lit up on here, but that's not accurate. You only have one lit up at a time. So if I hit the Q button, then everything that's in my headphones there, everything that I hear in my headphones is only for that channel. In other words, if I think somebody's really off key, I don't know who it is, I can go through and hit Q buttons until I find them, because all I'm going to hear is the channel that I've got queued. So that's what that is for. Now you can cue the master slider too, and you can listen to the output if you want to. Whatever's queued, that's what you're hearing in the headphones. If you don't have anything queued, then you're hearing the house. The next thing above that is the select button. So the select button is for what we're going to look at in a minute. It's the digital touch screen that's in the top center of the console. Whatever I have selected on the console is what I'm dealing with in that touchscreen monitor. If I select channel 1, then I can see all of the adjustments for channel 1 there. And so that's what the select button is for. Now these are the scribble strips. We can make changes to these, but you can actually change the color here. You can use different colors, and I think we've done that on the console there. You'll notice different colors, trying to group things together by color. But then you can also change it from channel 1 here to say guitar or piano or whatever you want it to say, and that makes more sense than just channel 1. But then up here you can see I01, I02. That's input 1, input 2. That's actually telling us the source. Now all of the stage input, all of the local inputs, the wireless mics and everything, they'll say that. They're going to say I01, I02, but if we choose the fader bank for the stage inputs, the piano, mic, the pulpit, the choir, anything that's connected on stage, if we change to that layer, then this won't say I01, it'll say S01. That's because it is Snake 1, Snake 2 is what it's called. So it's the digital snake. So anyway, something interesting to note that probably doesn't matter. So the next thing is, of course, the fader itself, or the volume control, volume slider for that individual channel. And we know turn it up to make it louder, turn it down. Pretty simple. Okay. All right. So if we move up the console above the fader banks, above the channel strips, on the left side of the monitor, we see these two channels that are off by themselves with rotary volume control instead of sliders. And those are stereo inputs. On the back of the console, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a red and white input plugged in there that's going to an auxiliary cable that you can plug into a phone or something like that. but that's where these are. It's just a couple of extra inputs that you can have up there. Just above that, you can't really see it, but just above it, there's an input, a USB input if you want to plug in your iPhone via USB, and you can, that'll be on channel 1. Channel 2 is addressable with the there's an auxiliary input. It's just some extra stuff. So that auxiliary cable is connected to channel 2, stereo input 2 on your console if you ever need it. Over here on the far right, way away from everything, is our headphone section that we were talking about. Now, this is where we plug in our headphones. This is where we adjust the level, the volume of the headphones. And this is our cue clear button. In other words, if I've got a whole bunch of stuff queued, I can go through and uncue them or whatever. I can just hit that clear button and do away with it. So, and then just above that is our VU meter. It's basically telling you visually how loud it is. So just under and to the left is the fader banks that we were talking about. There's a little bit better view of that. So there's input 1, input 2. We're not going to talk about the output button because it's pretty much useless because it's just basically a way to view all the master outputs that we talked about over here. If we select, our monitors or anything, if we press the output button, then we'll see all of the master outputs across here, which I don't think is useful. I don't use it. I only use the fader banks. Fader bank input 1, input 2. So that's what those are. And then we talked about these are our outputs. They call them auxiliaries. Some mixers call them mixes or monitor outs, but so on here they're called auxiliaries, but they're labeled on yours. The front monitors, choir monitors, and piano organ monitors, or hotspots, I think is the way it's labeled. And then down here on 8 is the assistive listening system. So these are our outputs that we can adjust. Remember, if none of these are on, then you're adjusting for the mains. And each one of these, as you whichever one of these is selected, your master fader becomes the master volume for that output. In other words, if they say the front monitors are just too loud in general, then I can hit the auxiliary 1 here and turn down the red fader a little bit. And then when I turn auxiliary 1, I turn auxiliary 1 off, then your fader is going to go back to the main volume position. So anyway, just something to remember. So this is our touchscreen monitor. I call it that because when I tell you what it's really called, you're not going to believe me, but the technical name for this is the fat channel. I don't know why. It's neither a channel nor fat, but whatever. But this is a touchscreen display for making fine adjustments, in-depth adjustments. Basically, you can look at this like under the hood. When you're working on the touch screen, it's like you pop the hood and you are changing something internally in the settings. So this is the way it's going to look. If you press the home key right here, it's going to take you back to the main screen. This is the way it's going to look. Now, the reason that it's lit up pink here on channel 1 is because channel 1 is selected. So if channel 1 is selected, it's lit up pink here. If channel 2 is selected, it's lit up pink here. Now, what I need to do in that case is I can come to the touch screen and I can press right there, and it'll take me to a group of settings for that channel. I can press here and it'll take me to a group of settings for that channel. I can actually swipe up and see more settings that I can click on and make adjustments in. If I click here, it's going to let me rename, recolor, all of that, the channel in the scribble strip. Okay? So this is what it looks like if we press, let me go back, if we press this right here, that's the equalizer. Right now there's no settings applied to the equalizer. It's completely flat. But if we press there, we're able to make adjustments to the EQ, the equalizer. So this is the tone of that channel. It's a lot of this has already been set. In fact, I made some tweaks last time I was there to kind of clean it up and clear it up a little bit. You can wreak havoc right here. And so if I press, if I take my finger and I grab the L for low, I can pull that up, pull it over, pull it down. I can move it around and make a different shape. High, I can do the same thing. High, mid, low, mid. I can grab those points and boost them, cut them, move them up and down the spectrum. I can do all kinds of things. I wouldn't recommend doing it, especially in a service. So I recommend getting it set the way it needs to be and never touching it again unless something changes. We've got a gate, which is basically, it's called a noise floor, where I can actually make it to where it has to get above a certain sound level, volume level, before that gate opens up and allows the sound to come through. This is useful if you have a little bit of a hum on the stage or something like that. If you have something ambient that you need to deal with that you don't want it on all the time, you can actually set this. Now you got to be careful. If you set it too high, then it's going to be glitchy. Somebody's going to be talking, it's going to, you know, and you're going to hear it cut in and out. But typically the gate is not used in a normal traditional church setting, but it's good to know that it's there. But basically what you're doing, there's a floor and you're raising the floor. The reason it says that is because under that is the compressor. Compressor is lowering the ceiling. In other words, we don't want it to get too loud, so we allow the compressor to regulate that highest volume level. And there is an art to these, but it's useful to know they're there, and you should look into and get some online tutorials. There's a lot out there about how to properly use those. All right, so now we're going to move on to Easyworship. And Easyworship is easy compared to something like ProPresenter, but it's still got a lot going on. And so let's look at that really quick. So here we have basically what comes up. This is our home screen when we open Easyworship. Now, first thing that you should note is over here on the left side, you'll see what's called the schedule. Now, this bank over here is so that I can drag in things sequentially for my Sunday morning service. So I can drag any elements into here, and then I'll have them in order for my service. Now down here at just underneath that on the bottom left is called the media tray. I've got songs, I've got scriptures, I've got media, and you notice that includes videos, images, feeds from a camera, DVD. I can actually play from a DVD directly and drag that in, and audio clips. So let's start out with videos here. I'll grab just this intro video here, and I'm going to drag it into my schedule. And there it is. So there's my intro video. Maybe it's a sermon opener, maybe it's a service opener, maybe it's a video of announcements to play before service. Whatever it is, it's going to be the first thing in my service. And then someone may come up and they're going to read a scripture. So I'll go to scriptures, and I can actually search anything here. We'll say Revelation 1:1. No, let's say Revelation 1:10. All right. And we can choose our version over here. We'll do it in the New King James. Now it says more available. I can click on there and I can download more versions if I want to. But I'll grab it and I'll drag it in, and there it is. And it's ready to show. Now, maybe next thing I want to do is bring in a sermon PowerPoint. Now, if I go to presentations, I've got all my presentations here. Now, if I click on the bottom on any of these, no matter which one it is, the songs, scriptures, media, or presentations, I can click the plus here on the bottom and I can add something. Now if I click that in presentations, it's going to take me to something to make a presentation. It pops up to make a presentation. But I already made my presentation in PowerPoint. So here all I have to do is come down beside it with this little upside down drop down arrow thing and click there. And it says new presentation, import PowerPoint file. If I click on import PowerPoint file, it's going to take me to just basically a Finder, Windows Finder window that I can bring it in from a flash drive or on my desktop, wherever I have it, I can bring it in, and then it'll look something like this, and I can grab it and I can drag it in, and there's my PowerPoint. All right, but let's do that again. So same thing like media. I want to add a video. I can hit the plus sign and it'll take me somewhere to grab a video and import that, and I can drag it in. So I've built some kind of a mock-up service here. Now I can click on each one of these. I'll double click, or I'll click on each one of these, and you can see that I can play my intro here, and that'll be playing on my projectors, and so on and so forth. I can pause it. I can do different things. Now I'll click on my scripture, and you can see that if I click on it, it transitions over. If I click on the PowerPoint, I've got all my PowerPoint slides. I can go through it and click on each one, and it will show up on my projectors. And that is basically how you run a show. Now, there's some other things to keep in mind. There's a lot more, but the next thing to keep in mind is over here on the top right are very important buttons. They're important because if, kind of like the on button on the mixer, if one of these is pressed, nothing's going to work. These are overlays. If I hit the black overlay, then my projectors are going to go black. It's going to put a black cover on whatever I'm doing. It's beneficial because then I can find something and get to where I need to go, or I can, if there's nothing in between one slide and another, I can black it out until we're ready for the next slide. And then when I hit it again, it comes off and it comes back up on the projectors. There's also the logo button, which allows me to throw a logo, a church logo, which you guys have. You have that installed, so it'll just throw up the FBC Smackover logo over whatever is on the screen, which is a good way to go out from one thing and into something else. If I'm on anything that I've made inside of Easyworship, this clear button will light up if there's any kind of a background to what I'm doing. So this clear button will right here will light up, and I'll be able to push clear, and what that actually does is it takes all the text off the background. So if I have a cool background behind what my text that I've built in Easyworship, when I hit the clear button, it leaves the background and just the words will go away. And then when I hit the clear button again, the words will come back. So all of these are very important because not that you need to use them, but if you do use them, you got to remember to turn them off if you're going to come back to what you're showing. So that's the basics for Easyworship. Let's talk about OBS real quick. Okay, so now we're going to talk about OBS. It's going to be a little hard to show you this because I'm actually using OBS, and you can only run one application of OBS at a time on a PC. So I'm going to show you basically an image of OBS, and we'll talk through it real quick. All right, so here you see basically your home screen. What you'll see when you bring OBS up. Now you're going to have your camera feed hopefully show up here in the black box, hopefully. If not, then you've got an issue, but you'll see your camera feed there. Now over here on the left bottom are scenes. Scenes are made up of sources. And so if I click on any of the scenes, if you click on any of the scenes that are saved there in your OBS, I believe you've got I think one is labeled camera, one is labeled monitor, one is labeled monitor with camera, or camera with monitor. So those are terms that that someone has selected to name those scenes. Basically, the way I would name those is camera only, and the next one I would label Easyworship. The next one I would label camera with Easyworship, or something like that. But if you click on either one of those, what you'll see over here is a collection of sources. There'll be a video source, an audio source, and maybe some other sources. Your one that is labeled camera, I believe. So the input sources for it are going to be Blackmagic device. That's going to be the unit that the camera is connected to, and then it is thus connected from there to that computer. So it sees that device. So it's going to be Blackmagic device. That is your video source. You're also going to see an audio source, and that is going to say Yamaha TF or something like that. That is because the Yamaha digital console has a USB output that connects directly into that computer as well. So you've got video and you've got audio. So you can send it out from there. But if you want to keep it make it a little interesting, the next thing there that says monitor, that is going to be a feed directly from Easyworship. And so when you go to that scene, if I click on any one of these scenes over here, then it's going to change to that scene. So if I click on camera, it's going to show the camera in my preview and online. If I click on monitor, I think it's labeled monitor, then it's going to show the Easyworship screen. Same thing we're seeing on the projectors. If I click on the one that says camera and monitor, then it's going to show the camera, and then up here in the upper left, it's going to show just the words, not the backgrounds. It's going to bring in just the words that's going to lay over the video. So it's nice if there's a scripture and you're showing it on the projectors, but the camera's on the pastor, then you can click on that scene and the scripture will come up over here and float just above his head there. So that's a pretty neat thing. I think you're set up ready to go on that. If you have to change one, you can add scenes, you can add the components for that scene, and if you go into that, you'll see that you can add all kinds of stuff: text, shapes, color blocks, computer monitor, screenshot. You can media like videos and things like that. You can actually set up where it has a opening video, and you just click on that and it plays it automatically until you change to another scene. So all kinds of stuff. So that's the scenes, that's the sources. Right next to that is the audio mixer. So this is the sound level that's going out to the stream or the recording that's coming into the computer. You want to keep it out of the red, but somewhere in the yellow. So if it's coming in a little hot, you can pull it back with this slider right here. You can adjust the level coming in right there to make it just perfect. I think it's okay, but if you see it get into the red, you might want to pull it back a little bit. The next thing is the scene transitions. So I can change, when I click between these, I can change how it goes into the next thing. So right now this one, if you notice, it's set to a 300 millisecond fade, which is a pretty quick fade from one to the other. I can set it on cut. So in other words, when I click on another one, it just goes straight to the next thing. So you can make all those adjustments here of how you want it to transition. So then I've got start streaming, start recording, and there's some other things here, but the recording and streaming, those are the important things. If I click start streaming, your OBS is connected to your YouTube account. So when you click start streaming, it's going to stream directly to your YouTube account as long as that stays set intact. If those settings ever get broken, then you can go to settings here. Let me get my fat face out of the way. You can go to settings here, and you can adjust the you can re-sign into the account and stuff like that under stream settings. But you can also record directly to the computer right here. We typically at our church will stream and record simultaneously because if the internet goes down, Facebook or YouTube or whatever you're doing, something goes wonky, you still got the recording. You can upload it after the service and keep trucking. So, but it does take up quite a bit of space on your computer. So that's OBS in a nutshell. Like I said, just like anything else, there's a lot of other stuff going on. But the thing to remember is that you're clicking between different scenes here. Now, the other adjustment that you're going to make, since you have a one-camera system, is you have a remote control for your PTZ camera that is located on the stand to the right of the, if you're sitting in the booth, it's over on your right, the white PTZ camera. That's pan, tilt, zoom. In other words, it's a robotic moving camera. And you can use the remote control with the arrows on the remote control to move the camera around. You've got zoom buttons where you can zoom in. It's got a 20 by optical zoom, so it can zoom in. And then and zoom out. You've got a lot of different things going on there just for camera position. You're also able to save all of those settings by pressing, when you get it to where you want it to go, where you want the camera to be, you can press the set button, the number, there's 1 through 0, 1 through 9, and then a 0. You can press the number that you want to save it under, and then enter. Set, the number, enter, and then no matter where I'm at, I can hit that button and it'll move straight to that position. So I can set up my whole service that way, where maybe I start out with the camera zoomed all the way out so that we see people coming in, and the pianist is playing and everything. And the first thing may be the pianist will play and sing. So we'll sing 2 maybe where it zooms in on that. Scene 3 will be the next thing in the service. And so I can set all that up. So basically I'm just going through the numbers instead of like trying to move around with everybody watching, and that gets a little wonky sometimes. So, so basically that is the live streaming in a nutshell. Okay, so now we're just going to tie up some loose ends. We're going to go through just a few things that are just out there on the fringes that we haven't discussed, but you may need to know. And so let's have a look at this first. These are our projectors. They are laser projectors, and you'll see right here there is there's a little I don't know if you can see my cursor, crosshairs, whatever it is. There's a little infrared eye. So the remote control, it's an Epson remote. It's a little white remote. There should be 2 of them, but you'll find at least one. If you point that remote there's a couple of little receivers sitting just between the computer and the mixing console. You'll see it mounted on the edge there with 2 little antennas. If you point the remote at those, they should power. They're supposed to power both the projectors on at the same time and power them off at the same time. So that's how you get the projectors on. All right, let's talk about something else. The wireless microphones are they're chargeable, rechargeable. So all you have to do is drop them into the charging cradles, which are located next to the piano. So over in the piano cubby, there's the little table. And so when you're done with a microphone, you can drop it in that charger. You can see the middle one that has the belt packs for the lapel in it. That the front one is charging. It's red, but all the others are green. The wireless microphone on the far right that's by itself in a charging bay, I don't think it's plugged in. I think it's in there crooked because there's no lights on. So that's something to watch. But those are where the wireless microphones are being charged. You'll notice these little paddle antennas on each side of the balcony, along with that nick in the molding from the lift. I don't think we did that. Somebody did that. But those are actually antennas for the wireless microphone receivers. They're highly directional, and they should make it to where you can run multiple tons of microphones and have no crosstalk, no bleed, no dropouts, all of the things associated with wireless. They're supposed to correct that, so make sure that those are there and pointed in the right direction. The next thing is our stage lighting here. The stage lighting is all incandescent steel. There wasn't in the budget for us to change it over to LED quite yet. So they're lamps and they're hot. And so sometimes those will go out and you'll have to bring in either a lot of scaffold or a lift, probably a lot of scaffold, to change those bulbs. Each one of those is individually controlled back at the booth. So let's see if the next thing. So you can turn all the lights on or off as you're coming in from the offices. That's there on the left as you're going toward the baptistry. This is there, and A is on and B is off. We talked about that. So up in the booth next to the console, this is the mixer right here. This is a remote, much like the one that has the 2 buttons next to it. This is another one just like that, but it has 8 buttons that can be programmed. Right now it's programmed, you can turn all the lights on, the choir on the stage, just the house and the stage, or off is 8. So that's good to know. And then the next thing I want to talk about, just kind of make mention of, is this unit right here. So this is this blue cable right here is coming from the booth computer, and it's actually coming into this little unit, and then it goes out of this unit to the 2 projectors. This lives on top of the rack there in the organ chamber. And so we want to make sure that this is always powered on. If your projectors are not showing, if they're showing no signal, this is the first place to check to make sure that this thing is powered on. So thank you guys for bringing us in on training you on the equipment there at First Baptist Smackover. We've installed quite a bit of this kind of recently, and so we are pretty familiar with it. If you have any other questions, need any other input, be sure and reach out, 870-814-0714, or me directly, Jerry at Bensburg.tech. Thanks, you guys.